Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. My guest today is Mikhail Palatnik, Vice President of Data Solutions and Product Management at Zywave. Mikhail has 20 plus years of business experience in consulting roles as well as in senior industry leadership roles. He joined Zywave in the summer of last year and lives with his family in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Zywave is a cloud-based insurance platform with CPQ capabilities. Welcome, Mikhail, to the CPQ podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Very excited to have you and talk a little bit about CPQ for the insurance industry today. But before we go there, please tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you did before you joined Zywave.
Yeah, certainly. I've spent my whole career in this intersection of insurance and technology, sort of spanning, again, over 20 years ago. I joined, at the time it was Andersen Consulting, became Accenture, and sort of fell into the insurance vertical. And then spent quite a bit of time in consulting. I ultimately went to Capgemini, did a stint there. And then after that, I got off the road and left the consulting life behind me and went into the product vertical. And I joined a company called Marshall Swift Beck that ultimately got bought by CoreLogic. And I ended up running the product function for the insurance business there for a while. So for those not familiar with CoreLogic, is a company that provides information services, data analytics, sort of workflow solutions into insurance industry, specifically specializing in the property side, commercial and residential. And I was there for a while, and then last summer I left and I joined the ranks of Zywave, which I'm very excited to be a part of. And here I have, as you mentioned, so official title is VP of Product and Data Solutions. So I have responsibilities for multiple product portfolios as well as for data science, data operations function.
Excellent. So tons of business experience. Excellent. But how did you get started working with CPQ Solutions?
Honestly, I mean, CPQ and sort of that's a bit of a more of a modern moniker, but rating solutions, comparative rating solutions. I've been working with them for a long time. You literally going back to the beginning of my career, where a lot of this technology was sort of just budding. And again, working for those consulting companies, I work with both on the insurance carrier front and with the large brokerages to start to create the initial integrations. So sort of integrating the comparative raters, building some of those early bridging capabilities, enabling the early digital distribution ecosystem. So a lot of base experience. And then, when I went to CoreLogic, it was a data company, but we fueled quite a bit of workflows in the CPQ space, in the rating space, through a lot of partnerships with the providers here, including Zywave, and provided sort of solutions into the CPQ umbrella. So I've been working with it for a long time, and then very excited to be a part of the Zywave team that's truly pushing the boundary of modernizing the capabilities there and truly rethinking what CPQ means for the insurance industry.
Excellent. Now, you had already a distinguished career, right? So what was the main key point for you to join Zywave?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And hopefully it was distinguished. I guess, we'll reflect on that in the memoirs. But there's a couple things. First of all, Zywave is a sort of growth rocket ship, right? I was really attracted to the sort of what they were doing, both organically and inorganically. It was just an insurtech that was flying to the moon. I wanted to be a part of that. I was in a public company for quite a bit of time, and I wanted to join a private company and more of a sort of a growth type of an atmosphere and culture. And then, frankly, I'm sort of continuing to chase the opportunities for disruption in our space. The space has been significantly undergoing a lot of innovation and disruption, and I want to sort of be on a bleeding edge of it as much as I can. So I was really excited about that. And the team here, the operations team, the C-suite is a wonderful team, and I was really sort of attracted to working with those folks. So it was an easy transition for me.
Excellent. And then let's talk about something that I ask every guest on the CPQ podcast, and that is, what do you like to do when you don't work?
Yeah, it's a good question, especially in the COVID times. But I have a 5 and 8 year old boys, and they certainly keep me busy. And if I think about it, they probably have more activities now that I've had in my whole life. So between chauffeuring them to all those activities, and work, that takes up a lot of time. But honestly, I'm big into kind of a gym rat, so I do a lot of races. I train for a lot of races, and then also, my wife and I are big fans of live entertainment, like stand-up comedy and Broadway. And so, starting about May of last year, it seemed like everything opened up, and a lot of the folks are touring. So we've been going to a lot of shows and concerts for a while now, which is great. It's been a blessing.
Very cool. One thing I have to ask here, one about the races, the other one about the comedian. Let's start with the one for the races. So what races do you like to run?
I do typically half marathons, and I'm not much of a sort of runner. I've always been a gym rat, but preparing or training for running really sort of pushes me and motivates me and gives me something to achieve doesn't come easy. Mm-hmm. And so I like that, sort of setting that goal and seeing if I can do it. And I do it with a real close friend of mine. So we sort of push each other to not fail, if you will. But it's been great.
Excellent. And then the comedian. So I go ahead and see Nate Bargatze later this month. So I was just wondering, what's your favorite comedian?
I think Dave Chappelle was the best show I saw, but I also recently saw Bill Burr, and he was amazing. I mean, I digest a lot of comedy, and I think it's a great form of entertainment. So I go to a lot of those. But I think Dave Chappelle is probably the GOAT, if you will.
Excellent. Greatest of all time GOAT. So for our non-native speaking listeners. So that's right. Anyways, excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Mikhail. So let's talk then, switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about Zywave now. So let's maybe start by telling our listeners what products and services Zywave offers.
Yeah, it's a great question. And sort of maybe I can start out at a 10,000 foot level to sort of explain the Zywave solutions. But at a macro level, Zywave provides end-to-end solutions for insurance agencies, right? So if you think about anything that an agent need to operate, and that's the broad term, so let me sort of explain. And the way I like to describe it is I like to lay it out by really just putting it from the perspective of a policyholder, like laying out a typical policyholder journey and sort of in parallel laying out the agent journey, right? So it really starts with, for the agency with marketing, lead generation, and from the consumer standpoint, it's awareness. What do I need in terms of my insurance? What are my insurance needs? Who do I need to do business with? What do I need to sort of have in terms of insurance, whether commercial or residential? And then sort of going back, so start with marketing, lead generation, and then you go into the shopping event. This is where, or from the consumer standpoint, the consideration. And this is where CPQ really falls in. So, how much do I pay? What coverages do I need? What's the best sort of products for my needs? And then, once you get placed with the insurance product, it really goes into the servicing. So how do I mitigate the risk if I'm for the consumer or for the business, right? So how do I minimize the risk? How do I sort of assist with the operations? If any changes are required, life events, et cetera. So there's a lot of sort of servicing that goes into it, and risk management and risk reduction. And ultimately there's the renewal component of it. And then if there's a claim, so there's the claim processing, right? So from the complete life cycle, it spans those different subverticals. So Zywave provides solutions for all the components within that life cycle, right? And if you go to our website, you will see that we sort of talk about our solution suites in terms of clouds, right? We have a sales, content, client, and analytics cloud. And really those things are solution packages that specialize in targeting different areas of that consumer journey. So for example, within our sales cloud and content cloud, we delivered and develop a lot of thought leadership and content that helps producers and brokers find and attract the business through the thought leadership angle. Like here are the trends, and here's what your needs are in terms of business needs or insurance needs for a particular business, and here's what you need to think about. Right, so it really supports the marketing and lead generation process, and then we have our CPQ solutions, with the pricing and the product selection, and then we have our client cloud. Truly allows our clients, which are the insurance companies and insurance brokerages and agencies, to connect with their clients, which are the policyholders, and provide them information that they need for risk management, for servicing, for sort of managing their day-to-day needs. And then, Analytics Cloud has a suite of solutions that help insurance companies and insurance agencies understand risk better, be able to sort of understand their operations better, be able to optimize, be able to sort of price more accurately. So sort of runs the gamut. So, and it's just easier to think about it in those packages across the life cycle of the policy. But also, I should sort of comment, what we truly differentiate in, what we think we differentiate, and we really believe in it and take it to market, is really, helping agencies deliver growth. And we do that by really enabling a modern revenue operations capability. So really just focusing on the myopic needs of our customers, which is really around growing profitably, and what do they need to do in order to do that. And we do that through the lens of, what is the best way to do this from the perspective of the consumer? How do we change insurance engagement and sort of connection that consumers have with the insurance industry, and that really enables growth for ultimately our clients, which are insurance agencies?
Got it. Very broad view of the whole insurance business. So thanks for doing that. Now, one probably dumb question, but are you focusing on specific kind of insurance companies, auto, homeowners, I have an idea, commercial, healthcare, any kind of specific insurance, or it's all kind of insurance businesses?
We sort of really span the gamut here. We have in the property and casualty arena, we really service the complete ecosystem, which is, whether it's, auto, non-standard auto, homeowners, to commercial lines, standard, to, excess and surplus lines within commercial. So the full gamut. And same goes with sort of employee benefits space. So, health and benefits coverages. So it really spans the whole gamut of that vertical as well.
Okay, excellent. And you're focused on a specific insurance size. So your customers are insurance company. You focus on specific size of your customers.
No, once again, we span the full gamut here. So it really, and the point here I wanted to make is we've really developed fit for purpose solutions for different subvertical, different size, right? So there's large enterprise agencies have distribution needs that are different from a small mom and pop agencies that are potentially, there's differences between property and casualty, employee benefits, or of complete, full service agencies, and the same goes for carriers. So we put together fit for purpose packages or cloud solutions that are specific to each need, but we run the whole gamut of needs and operations.
Fair enough. And right now you're operating globally, or you focus on North America?
Our primary focus is in North America, but we do have a growing operation in UK that focuses on the Lloyd's market specifically now, but it's looking broadly in Europe, and we're looking to grow that area of our business as well. And so it's been great for us. So it's sort of that side of the pond as well.
Excellent. And where's the team in general located, at the headquarters at least, or is everyone working remote these days?
Well, our headquarters is in Milwaukee, but we support a work from home policy, as many do nowadays, and we have hubs sort of all over the United States and UK, as I mentioned, in London, and then we have a large, I'd say probably 40% of our company's remote, as in not close to an office, but our employees have a choice whether they want to go in or not, and a lot of folks take advantage of that to sort of be around people, but we're sort of well spread out.
And how many employees does Zywave have at this time?
I don't remember the exact number, but we're sort of nearing, or we're around 1,000 employees.
Novo CPQ Consulting helps you with all CPQ related questions. For example, we help customers to find the best CPQ solution for their business, and we help customers analyze their current business process to determine if and where CPQ can help. Here it's important to point out that we are 100% independent and always look out for our customers first. This means for us also that we don't get paid by any CPQ vendor for providing them new customers or for any other services. We are focused on our customers and always provide the best available information to them. We also help system integrators to improve their services, and we offer the only CPQ industry subscription that provides monthly CPQ news and trends. We have many other services, so check it out today at novocpq.com. Send me an email to frank.sohn@novocpq.com to learn how we can help you with your CPQ questions, and keep us in mind when you look for 100% impartial CPQ advice. So please tell me a little bit more about the company culture at Zywave.
Yeah, and maybe sort of before I do that, I sort of mentioned, and going back to the growth component, and again, what attracted me here is that it's been a ton of organic and inorganic growth. But if Zywave has made 8 acquisitions in the last 2 years, so it's been a very dynamic company, a dynamic time, dynamic culture. As you can imagine, when you bring 8 companies together, there's evolution in the culture of how you need to operate. But what we're, I believe, and I trust that what we're truly doing is bringing the best of those cultures together. So, matter of fact, we recently spent some time as an extended leadership team reflecting on sort of this topic as a whole, and we've drafted new operating principles and new mission and vision for ourselves, and sort of taken the best of both worlds. And really, those are focusing on, the sort of 3 core values around, transformation, right? So supporting bold thinking and disruption, and sort of disrupting the status quo and embracing ambiguity and agility. Belonging, so establishing one team, building on trust and communication and inclusiveness, and then ultimately growth, sort of embracing that growth mindset. So that's that ownership of pursuit of excellence. So it's but again, sort of for those familiar with, it's a startup culture that's really embodied into a larger, a growing size company.
And what are the top 2 or 3 capabilities that insurance customers ask you for at this point in time?
Yeah, and sort of addressing it from the CPQ perspective, and maybe I could sort of elevate just for a little bit. And those who are familiar, CPQ hasn't, as a concept, it's been around for a little bit. I think it was truly modernized by Salesforce, right? So for those familiar with the insurance ecosystem, used to call it a comparative rating process, and or just rating process. But the reason why we really embrace the CPQ umbrella and the moniker is that we're really transcending beyond just pricing packaging component of the rating experience. And let me just explain what I mean, right? I think fundamentally the sales process is being re-engineered, and we are re-engineering it from simply data collection and providing pricing to guided advisory and like connecting the right risk with the right coverage, the right product, right? And I think we've seen a lot of industries sort of go through this metamorphosis, right? Like a simple example is a travel agent industry, right? So it's not enough just to price travel. There's transcended for the suite of solutions that need to be offered. But also, if I could sort of reflect on from the consumer standpoint, right? We're trying to move away from just data collection and supporting cumbersome processes. So like imagine yourself as let's say if you have own home and you going through a process of homeowners insurance quoting, you're collecting the agent's collecting information from you. Most likely you don't remember it. You have to sort of answer questions you don't really have answers to. You have to figure out what paperwork you need. So the legacy processes are being changed, being sort of going through a digital revolution. So going back to your original question, I think in order to support that vision, to go simply from data collection and pricing to sort of enabling guided advisory and connecting right risk to right coverage, there's four fundamental things. Number one, the enabling of the guy that's selling is really taking advantage of analytics, of data, of AI. So what I mean by that is like know your customer, understand their sort of history, understand the market trends, the benchmarking, in order to be able to provide the right recommendations that are specific to that customer, even without getting, before even getting any information from the customer directly. Is that know your customer and know what their needs would be, and be able to sort of pull that in and serve as an advisory function. So, for example, in insuring a commercial or business, you'd say, hey, for a business like yours, here's a typical cyber exposure, and here's a typical cyber coverage needs, and typical liability coverage needs, et cetera. And then you need to be able to have a dynamic product configuration abilities, right? So ability to support a diverse and a complex set of products and pricing and varying, right? So the industry and insurance companies are going through metamorphosis themselves. So you need to be able to constantly and change these mechanisms and have it be sort of effective across all channels. You have to continue to deliver value into improving quote to buying conversion. So what I mean by that is you need to help agents place that business effectively and efficiently, that thereby you need a very large inventory, right? So you can't say, I have these insurance companies in my rating process, but not these insurance companies, or I have these brokers, but not these brokers. You have to have a complete inventory so the process is seamless and easy. And then ultimately, sort of another major thing is workflow efficiency. So moving from data collection to data verification stigma is really having really accurate data to be able to pre-fill your workflow. So instead of sort of torturing your consumer to answer questions they don't probably have answers to, you should already have this information, have the workflow pre-filled. So really it's just a completely different sort of dynamic and process. So I think those are the major capabilities and the major ones we're working on.
Excellent. Then let's also do for all our listeners who typically work with other kinds of CPQs, look at some of the features and functions, right? So and see if and how you use them in the insurance industry. One important one is the omni-channel capability. So selling via a sales team, channel partners, right? That could be distributors, resellers, and so on. And for you, I guess the agencies and things like that. And then e-commerce. How important are these different capabilities for your customers?
Yeah, it's a great question. And ultimately, so I'll start with the punchline and go backwards. The modern needs are to support every channel that's available, right? And what I mean by that is, depending on the needs and the size of the agency and the needs of the agency, there's multiple. So you need to be able to have your CPQ capabilities available through an API, because a lot of agencies, especially enterprise agencies, want to have their own storefronts. They want their own sort of really robust look and feel that they own. So they want to connect with you through an API. So it supports that channel. A lot of the consumers or agencies want you to help them set up a direct to consumer connection. So you need to be able to support that. Many agencies want the UI-based workflows where they handle walk-in or phone traffic, and they use the UI capabilities within the CPQ tool in order to process business. Many like the MGAs, managing general agents, they sort of need both the agency capabilities and carrier capabilities. So it really is the whole point of a very effective CPQ is to support sort of complex pricing and packaging across the omnichannel environment. And we really pride ourselves in being able to do that, and not just do that for particular line of business, but across, as I mentioned, property and casualty and sort of health and benefits sectors.
And now I have to ask you one thing I'm personally curious about, right? So not because it impacts me, I thought it as an interesting topic to see. I guess insurance companies also have these devices that you can, for example, plug in your car to see how you use the car, right? So like an IoT device. where track your behavior and can make a risk assessment based on your behavior. Is that also integrated into your CPQ tool? And how does it work more generally with the more data that you get and how you connect that to your CPQ capabilities? If you could talk about that, that would be great.
Yeah, there's a lot of innovation, sort of pricing and insurance product development from the carrier standpoint, right? So a lot of the telematics devices, the ones plug into your car that you talk about, or there's a lot of IoT devices that are available through insurance companies for your home. Whether it's water shutoff valves or security systems, et cetera. They're ultimately now playing into complex and intricate rating plans for the insurance companies, right? So the insurance companies use the presence and that data, the presence of that device and that data in order to provide you the price based on your utilization. So the point of the CPQ solution within that construct is to be able to support those complex pricing algorithms in order to deliver the ability for the agents to collect the right data and engage with them, with those algorithms, and provide ultimately the price and the product to the insurance customer. So sort of we're the enablers and the recipients of these complex rating plans, and that we need to manage and help manage.
Excellent. Got it. So then let's look at a little bit more again from a customer point of view. What can customers do before they start a project with Zywave, and how long is an average project for you anyway?
Yeah, our capabilities are truly SaaS, from the perspective of modern SaaS platforms, what that entails, right? So in effect, there's nothing, you can sort of call, swipe a credit card and be enabled in seconds and be able to run and do quoting, right? So, sort of username, password, and permissions, and you're done. So it's truly turnkey in the way that how fast it can be enabled, and, all that you need to do your job will be right there in our sort of this interactive desktop. The goals, and, a lot of times we work with insurance companies, whether it's brokers or insurance companies, is that, a lot of them tend to want to adjust their processes and the workflows, and we frankly advise them to adjust the workflows and processes in order to take full advantage of the modern capabilities that we provide to the table. So often we'll work with them and help them on a consulting basis to truly, define a brand new workflow or a brand new way of doing something. Where now that you have modern capabilities at your sort of disposal, that you don't need to do X, Y, and Z paper processes. So some of it is really in terms of how aggressive people want to adjust their workflows, but in terms of software itself, it's turnkey connection.
And how much knowledge do your customers need to maintain and keep your Zywave CPQ solution up to date?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. So the actual sort of CPQ, so the rating capabilities, so the pricing and packaging, we fully maintain those set of capabilities. So clients don't need to do any of that. As in Zywave specific teams, they collect, whether they integrate with the APIs from the insurance company, or whether, especially in the benefit space, sort of host and manufacture rates. Zywave does all the work and maintaining and hosting those rates, right? We also, especially with the acquisition of the Clarion Door business, we have the whole business supporting, focusing on supporting a holistic distribution ecosystem. So what that means is that we have a set of solutions that focuses on helping carriers enable their sales and service capabilities in order to make those rates available for the brokers to engage with. And we really truly differentiate on that front by having a configuration driven capabilities. So business users can configure those rules, those pricing and packaging mechanisms, instead of having sort of heavy capabilities. So it's truly been a differentiator for us, and it's really helping connect this two-sided marketplace that, in fact, this CPQ is just by connecting distribution needs of our insurance companies with distribution needs of agencies and brokers.
Excellent. Unfortunately, when it's interesting, time goes by very fast, right? So we're almost at the end of this episode. Hence, my last question: what's a good way for interested listeners to contact you in case they have any follow-up questions for you or your team?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, you can visit us at Zywave.com, or you can go to our LinkedIn page to stay on top of the latest news and product updates, or you can write us an email at marketing@zywave.com, or you can find myself if you'd like to engage. So Mikhail Palatnik, again, I'm on LinkedIn, or Mikhail Palatnik at Zywave.com, Mikhail.Palatnik. And Frank, I'm sort of real thankful for the opportunity to chat with you today, and hopefully I can sort of shed some more light on what we do and why we do it, and sort of what value we can bring to the masses.
Yeah, I thought it was very fascinating. So thank you very much for making time for the CPQ podcast today. And we will have all the information that you mentioned in the show notes. So thank you very much, Michael.
Absolutely. Take care.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.